This is an ocean.
Pretty cool, right? And just think, once we forge this thing and save the dimension, you'll have a whole universe to explore.
How are you not afraid of the future? With all of its unknowns.
I do get, well, you asked me on Savali if I wanted to find my family. For a long time, I did. I mean, I really did. But the closer I got to doing that, what if they're not what I expected? What if I'm not what they expected? Anyways, I think we're here.
Ratchet and Clank walkthrough, Rift Apart walkthrough. I guess I missed that part. We're on Cordelon playing as Ratchet yet again, and we are going to be in probably one of the more convoluted planets, actually. So right off the start, we got to fight a bunch of robots, and they are just a pretty common enemy for Ratchet as in general. And we're going to be seeing robots pretty much throughout the entire world, as well as some familiar enemies from earlier games, which is something we've already been used to anyway. And this world will have a lot of the, what was it, like the Blizar quartz or whatever that dimension phase quartz, jumping between the dimensions. There'll be a lot of that going on. There's also a lot of these weird kind of low floating enemies. I don't know what they're called, but anyway, they are gonna try to swarm you from the elevator, and they like to leave some of the residual the residual damage on the ground. You know what I mean. And just, use whatever makes you happy, defeat them. By this point, you should have a pretty filled out wheel full of somewhat high-level weapons. And it's kind of near this point in the game where most of the weapons you have been using should be nearing level 5. And if you've been collecting a lot of raritanium, or at least trying to get most of the raritanium that you see as you play, then you should be able to, you should at this point also have some pretty decently upgraded weapons for the raritanium upgrades. And that also means that they're going to just be really strong. So the game kind of gets easier the more that you play. That's just how Ratchet and Clank goes. And if you really want to have some kind of challenge with all your superpowered weapons, then you'll have a lot of fun playing the New Game Plus. And I was playing a little bit of the New Game Plus for Rift Apart, and it's pretty similar to the other games, where when you have all those upgrades, it's really easy to kill enemies, but for the most part, the enemies just do an absolute truckload of damage. Alright, so here's the first crystal that we are going to be using.
Maybe it's related to all the dimensional chaos happening.
If that is the case, I believe hitting it will either shift us to another dimension or cause us to implode.
Ah.
I knew it! The Blizar must have absorbed the excess energy.
And it's going to warp us to the snow dimension, so I imagine people are talking behind me, but that's alright. It's just a different dimension. I don't know if it's really the snow dimension, but there's going to be snow here. And it's going to be slippery, and slippery in platformers is very dumb, but luckily we don't really have to deal with it too much because we're immediately going to head down the elevator.
I have never met my family either. Unless you count the Emperor. In which case, you cannot do any worse.
Probably not. But even if the Lombaxes are the best family ever, they could still be disappointed in me.
How? You are a hero.
I've hit a few bad guys, sure, but they invented so many brilliant things.
You sell yourself short.
Maybe, but I have a good life in my dimension, Kit, and I don't want to risk it. Speaking of risk, if Kadaro Station...
And once we're here in the research division, we're going to do a lot of kind of creepy gameplay, actually. Everything down here is very dark. And I guess this is Kadaro Station, and there's going to be a couple of spooky elements that we're going to be running into. So I liked this level a lot because it did feel a little bit more creative than some of the other worlds. And it also gave me kind of Bioshock vibes. I've also been kind of wanting to play Bioshock again recently, so maybe I should just do that. But I mean, we're underwater, we're in these leaky tubes. There's a doorway here that's got a rift we can use to grab a golden bolt, I think, on the right side. Yep, there it is. And it's just kind of a nice little spooky place. So I think they did a great job with this level, but it is also a little bit confusing because there's so many warps that we're going to end up doing. So if you ever decide to come back here and get all the collectibles, you might get lost, but by that point, it's not really too... Oh, excuse me, jeez. It's not really too big of a deal trying to get through the worlds that we've already cleared because we kind of know what to expect. We're also going to be running finally into these Amiboids. So these are the enemies that I mentioned earlier that are familiar to us. I think they were the main enemy of the first Ratchet & Clank game. Not totally sure. And I say familiar to us, I guess now I have to say familiar to people who've played the original Ratchet & Clank games, because this game is out now at a point that the kids that were born when Ratchet & Clank 1 came out, they're... how long ago was that even? Maybe those kids are like 16 or 17 now. Maybe older, maybe younger. Maybe they've played it. I doubt it though. So maybe people haven't actually ever seen the Amiiboids, especially if this is your first Ratchet & Clank game that you played. And you don't even have to be a kid for it to be your first. So either way, what I'm getting at is that we've seen these Amiiboids in previous Ratchet & Clank games, and I don't remember them being this annoying. So as I'm killing them, I'm using the Executioner, the shotgun, and that seems to be extremely effective at killing these guys very quickly, but we have limited ammo on that weapon, so eventually I'm going to have to switch, and I end up struggling a little bit later on. But the thing that the Amiiboids do is that they mix together, and they become a larger Amiiboid, and that kind of regenerates them. So if you kill like 3 of them and then 2 meld together, then you're still going to have to kill them, you'll have 2, and then if they meld back together, you'll have 2 more.
Sorry. I thought you were someone else, but you're not.
Is he okay?
I'm Ratchet.
Oh, that is great. Hello, Ratchet. Were you looking for me? That would be great, too. Ooh, can I call you Chet?
No. And no. I'm looking for some Blizon.
Oh, I know just the place. But I lost my access arm in all of this water. Have to drain it, but how, Ratch? How?
Calm down. I'll handle it.
The room is prone to flooding.
And now we get to meet a new robot friend who's going to stick with us pretty much the entire level, and also going to spend a lot of time trying to get us a new nickname of some kind, because I guess he's never had a friend before, or he's really just trying to look for a friend, but whatever it is, we'll let him be our friend. And we're going to hop over on those inner tubes and try to get onto the wall, or we will definitely get on the wall and then hop up here so we can slingshot ourselves over onto this wall. And there was that raritanium on the other side of the room that I was trying to get up to. I don't think I did end up getting it, but either way, we're going to activate this computer console. And that's going to move around some of the machinery and drain the water. Alright, with that drained, now there's a mushroom, a magical mushroom we can bounce on, and we can grab that raritanium. So always be sure to grab the raritanium, that's obvious. And at this point, I'm really trying to keep an eye out for collectibles, just because I planned on 100%ing this game on my own, even though I'm not showing it in the video, and I was just trying to make sure that I caught what I could, so I didn't have to get more when I came back later. And it's not really too difficult to pick up most of the collectibles in this world.
What is that?
That is Juice, my best friend. He tries to kill me sometimes, but he is a great listener.
As I was saying, it's not too difficult to pick up most of the collectibles in this world because it is pretty linear. As we saw with that cutscene that rudely interrupted me, we are running into kind of the spooky element, so now we have a monster that's going to be chasing us, and he's not going to be a very nice monster, and there's pretty much nothing we can actually do to the guy. So we'll get more about that when we actually run into him more, but for now we're just going to work our way forward inside of the level and trying not to get lost, even though, like I said, pretty linear world, almost impossible to get lost. Tons of talking that I'm sure I'm interrupting, but as I said before, if that bothers you, just try to find a PlayStation 5, right? Haha. Okay. This room has quite a few Amiiboids, and I think we need to head up on top to power up the elevator. So this is where I think I was struggling with some of the Amiiboids.
Find a way to turn it back on.
Leave it to us, Junkbot.
Okay, I will just stay down here and watch.
Yes, so we do need to power up the elevator, and a lot of them are just going to fall from the ceiling, and I'm out of executioner ammo, so I'm going to have to try to use other... No, I'm not yet, but I will be soon, so I'm going to have to use other weapons. And as I said, the executioner is just dang good at killing those things. It does so much damage, and it... okay, actually it doesn't do that much damage, but it just does so much spaced out damage that it's just a super good... you know, spray and pray kind of weapon, which is really useful for Amiiboids. So I also have the Buzz Blades, a weapon that I loved in the previous Ratchet and Clank games. It was easily my favorite weapon in the previous games, but it feels a little bit not so strong in this one. I don't know, it feels like they kind of dialed it back. And I think I made a mistake trying to use it to kill all these Amiiboids because it just has a tendency to home in on one target. And by the time it would kill an Amiiboid, 3 more would be forming together. And as we see there, if they all just kind of get together and turn into a big one, then you have to deal with 3 of them, and then you have to deal with 6 of them, and it just kind of becomes a cycle where I think the Amiiboids can end up spawning more than you can kill. So explosive weapons like the Drill Hound seem to be okay if I was using it correctly, which I really wasn't. And also the Blast Pistol, which you should have pretty high level by this point. I mean, it's the first weapon in the game. This one's not so bad. It kind of shoots out 3 bullets in a line if you have the upgrades. And I'm also just struggling with the environment here. I'm getting knocked off by the Amiiboids. I'm having to hang on the stupid edge. And again, these guys, I'm just having a really hard time trying to kill them. So now we're going to try the Negation Collider. Like, really, look how easily I dealt with these guys with the Executioner, and now I'm struggling. I mean, that weapon is really good for these guys. But the Negation Collider also seems to be really good, because finally I cleared him out. And now we can make it on over to the other side and power up the elevator.
There we go.
Ratchetti, you might want to get in this elevator soon, or now. Well done. You totally. Aw, I have never seen you so playful before.
That's playful?
Usually he just moseys around the station doing his own thing, but he seems to be actively chasing you. I am jealous. There it is! My favorite Blizar in all of the station! I love the way it sparkles when you stare at it.
Well, I guess this is goodbye then. Thanks for all your help, Junkbot.
It was my pleasure, Rah-Rah and Kitty.
Another dimension?
Yeah, very funny. Tell GeorgeBot he better watch his back tomorrow.
The ruby on board should be just ahead.